Hey, Ed, what's going on? See if this works. Audio going? The audio should be good. Now let's try to get this brighter. Look a little better. Seems like it. Slow. So I don't really have anything specific to talk about. I just wanted to paint a little bit. So, oh, thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, I don't have anything like specific reason why I'm streaming. I just really wanted to paint. So, I was like, okay, well, let's stream it while I'm on it. Why is it so blurry? That's weird. Let's see if we can adjust the focus here a little better. No, that's worse. I think that's the sweet spot. Hopefully it'll look a little sharper once I start doing some paint. I think the paper texture combined with the soft pencils and the 720p stream, for whatever reason, it's, let's see, is it? Can you read? Okay. Let's see what happens. It's also possible the webcam is dirty. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, that might have helped or made it worse. I don't know. So next door to my office, there's a church or a worship center. I don't know exactly what they're called, but apparently they're in on Sundays, and they're quite loud. So if we start hearing some choir music, it's not me. Hopefully it's not too loud. Yeah, that's why I have this kind of random ambient music playlist playing to kind of try to drown out whatever might be resonating through the walls. That's the bottom, doesn't matter too much. So if anyone's wondering, this is 300 GSM Canton cold press watercolor paper, just cut to a smaller size. Rough pencils are just done in pencil, and now I'm kind of defining the shapes a little more with the Qual Erase Indigo Blue. Keeping it loose and organic because most of the stuff is going to get lost anyways when I start painting, so it's just more defining. Turn down the music a little bit if it's too loud. So no light them from the bottom. Should I make a little note? That's not going to work. So I forget. Try to light them from here. I'm going to smudge that. Mark my words. And that's gonna go, yeah, it's gonna go off frame, that's fine. Or off canvas. And second hand is also going to go off canvas. Good. Not the greatest composition, but it is what it is. Oh, where's my eraser? John, I'll always do at the very least a very loose pencil, depending on what it is. Like if it's a portrait, like with really fine details, I'll kind of work in a tighter pencil. But yeah, sometimes I'll just go right in and just kind of draw it in with the paint, but it depends on what it is. Something like Venom, I could probably do without pencils and just kind of rough it in with paint, just because he's so organic and doesn't need to be pretty. Let's see, eraser's dirty. But yeah, I need some sort of base to get started off with, anyways. If I was gonna do like an apple or like a landscape or something, probably don't need pencils. But when doing characters, especially when doing females, I have to get nice tight pencils, just because I kind of need to do the problem solving. Where do my pencil now? Get the problem solving process, just to block where all the details go. And especially with portraits, making sure that there's the symmetry in the face, because otherwise it'll just end up looking goofy. I should try, actually. You know what? Not today, but one of these days. I'm going to try to do a portrait straight with paint. And acrylic paint's really forgiving because you can just paint over your mistakes, but it's not as smooth for me anyways as it would be to do everything in pencil. So like even now, I'm going to block in the shadows and in pencil. But now I'm going to paint over the whole thing anyways. When I do the underpainting, it can just follow the shapes that I'm creating with the pencil here. Okay, that's a little limp. Oh, I'm so glad Jalen's right here. Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I'll try it, man. Like I can't guarantee the results. It might be a total mess. But I could do it straight from paint. Maybe not on a commission or an AP. Okay, so the symbol's white, so that's blocked in. That's blocked in. That's blocked in. That's the whole. So I'm going to talk to myself a little bit here, trying to figure out what I should block in and not, because I don't really want to touch the spider symbol. Actually, where's my under eraser? Here we go. I want to keep that very clean, and it's not going to be solid white at the end. I want to be able to just do a very light gray wash over it. So I don't want any pencil marks to really show through. Or minimize the amount of pencil marks that show through. That's pretty nice. So because there's light coming this way, I'm assuming that there's light that's going to hit behind his forearm. So then parts of his bicep and his shoulder, like here and here, are going to be in light. And then these parts are going to be really dark. Most of the under chin area would be really blocked off. Light here, I'm going to do probably an ambient light from the left. Yeah, well. So we'll do a highlight on this side. Then in his forearm, I have to make sure I leave a highlight there. And his fingers, claws, whatever, are going to be primarily lit from the bottom. Keep his eyes white. Balls for the ear, and then the mouth area I usually do at the end for Venom. There's no point drawing in all the little teeth and whatnot. I usually like to just, that's really fuzzy. Let me try autofocus. Oh, that's better. Is that better? Brighten it up a bit. So trying to figure out this webcam. It's a little better than using a cell phone, that's for sure. What made me choose this pose over a different pose? Nothing. I started kind of doodling in shapes, and that's the pose that tickled my fancy. With Venom specifically, most of the time I like to have some sort of foreshortening, like the hand sticking out or the tongue really coming towards the viewer. I think it helps create that sinister, menacing look that he's got. So generally with Venom, I'll always have something goofy going on. There's this piece that I was just goofing around with the other day on that maybe I'll actually finish one day, where I just started off drawing lines, and I just really like the way, it's gonna hard to tell here, it's gonna work, yeah. The way the curve of the arms with the tongues intersected, but that doesn't answer your question. So to answer your question, that's just what I liked. And I didn't record or stream the penciling process because it's hard to have a camera over the area when I'm kind of goofing around. You just see my hand, or I'll move the paper. A lot of times I have the paper attached to a piece of board like this, and I'll hold it like that. So like you can't really see anything. Maybe if I get a better camera setup, maybe with a DSLR really up top zoomed in, so it's not in my way, because right now the camera is literally 8 inches over the paper. So as I'm working, I'm looking around the camera, and it's kind of gets in my way. It's okay when I'm doing this part, but when I'm just doing the rough sketch, I don't like it. Plus, that way I don't end up streaming for half an hour or 40 minutes as I'm just drawing circles on a piece of paper. All right, so I'm just going to clean up the edges, literally just erasing the lines, the outer edge, to make sure I don't have anything or too much sticking out. And there's a lot of smudges there. And then I'll start painting in a minute. Got to his left shoulder. So I think on this one, I might try an acrylic ink wash. So it's the Liquitex acrylic inks. I've tried using them for what set was it? Oh, can't say what set it was, but I did kind of try to. Is this black? No, that's Romber. Okay. Getting some interesting results. I do need to experiment with these a lot more to get a better feel for them. So this is a perfect opportunity. There's blue. Potassium blue green shade. Okay, good to know. I have a feeling this is going to have a green tint. Let's use a cheaper brush just in case these ruin them. Okay, that's just going to be in the way. So let's move the palette to this side. So I'm just mixing, let's grab a piece of scrap paper. Just mix some black with the blue. Give me a very dark. Can you see this here? There. It's an interesting shade. Oh, I can see the green feel for it. Not sure how I feel about that. Might be okay. Okay, I need a bigger brush. Let's use this one. So that was a number 1. This is a number 3 now. So as a fine tip, it'll just hold a lot more water and ink in it, so I don't need to dip as often. Switch more. Interesting. So I don't really have too much experience using the acrylic inks, so I'm kind of figuring this out as I'm going along. I think the challenge is going to be to get a consistent value, because I don't have anything pre-mixed. It's just kind of dabbed on my palette here. So what I'm going to try to do is, while I have this darker value loaded on the brush, try to apply it to the areas I'm going to want to have at this value. And try to keep it consistent. I assume I'm actually going to have to let this dry a bit before I get in there with actual with the colors. Yeah, I definitely think that in the future I need to mix a batch of the hue that I want to use. Hey Ken, thanks buddy. Because I'm gonna see, now I'm getting a lot darker. Ugh. Get out of the frame. Maybe that enough there. Yeah, it's definitely a little challenging switching mediums of this. Definitely think that there's something to the acrylic inks. I just need to figure out or get a hang of the workflow, because this is not what I'm accustomed to. But I like the way it's getting, they're applying on the paper. It's got a watercolory feel, but it's a lot more pigmented. And being acrylic, once it dries, this isn't going to get diluted or dirty up my other colors, I'm hoping. Well, maybe I'll go, yeah, let's try. Try to go darker. And basically use it as I would if I was doing this with actual inks. Black India ink, try to go really dark. So I think this week, is it this week? Marvel Anime is supposed to drop from Upper Deck. That should be an interesting set to see. And the art itself, I mean, it's original art by Peach. Let's see if autofocus will do any better. Oh. But also, all the sketch cards on this should be interesting. I'm sure not everyone, all the artists try to do an anime thing. But I'll be curious to see who did and what that ends up looking like. I can't do anime. I can't. My mind doesn't work that way. I appreciate the art form and the style. I just can't wrap my peanut head around it. So if I would have worked on that set, which I'm not saying I did, I would have probably gone in a more cartoony style, but still painted cards. That's if. Well, that green's really showing through on the blue. Gotta see if there's an actual pure blue or more traditional blue available. There must be. Just not loving that green. See how black is like. So what's going to happen is when I do the blue ink, the blue paint wash over it, that green hue is going to pop out in certain areas. And seeing it already show through, I think what I might do is do a green glaze over the whole work area before I start bringing out the details, which will help unify it, hopefully, or totally mess it up. So because I have his thumb overlapping his tongue, his thumb is overlapping his tongue. There's something very wrong with the lighting. Is this looking washed out on YouTube? On Facebook? The StreamYard, it's looking fine, but I'm looking at the preview, the Facebook preview, and it's looking really bright. We'll try to adjust this. Whoa. Okay, that's actually looking more. Yeah, I need to figure this out. Sorry about the flicker, I'm just playing with the well, when I'm done, I'll post a picture of it, and then we can see if it looks the same as the picture. I think the camera's trying to adjust every time my hand goes in because the lighting is changing. And it's very dark to begin with. Let's see. Quality 720. Oh. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do, and hopefully I don't mess everything up. That might work. Just mixing a very diluted batch over off the side here. Yeah, sorry, kind of cut off mid-sentence there. Yeah, so dilute a very diluted gray batch to try to get an even wash over the white areas, because nothing's going to be solid white. Need the highlights. Definitely don't want it to be as dark as I want in the costume area, but I do need some separation to give them form. Yeah, next time I do this, I'm going to start with the light wash and go all the way around. Then darken them in the areas that I don't want to keep it where it needs to be darker. So learned one thing. Start light, go dark. Is very much like watercolor. But by the looks of it, I am going to have to let it dry for a little bit. So how long have we been on? I think I might just leave the stream running, go make some coffee, give it 10 minutes to dry. If anyone's watching, you can watch paint dry, literally. And then I'll come in like 5 minutes and start doing color. Yeah, I definitely should have started lighter. It's not ruining anything. Too dark. It's not ruining anything, but would have been easier if I started lighter. And I went too dark, so I need to level off those darks by adding more darks here, just so the values are more uniform. Yeah, so I'm gonna go make some coffee. Let this dry for a little bit. All right, let's give it a 5-minute break. I'll go make some coffee. I'll rewind the music. I'll be back. All right. Good enough. Let's put the ink aside before I spill it. That's the worst that can happen, right? Oh, I did say I was going to do a green wash over the whole thing. So I should do that. So, see, there we go. Oh, we got some preaching going on. Hopefully you can't hear it. Trying not to get any coverage in the true white areas of the symbol, or the spider symbol, which is going to be primarily white. But by adding this tint to everything else, it's going to help me create some values. And it's actually creating a nice texture for the background, except here where I'm getting an edge. That just drives me nuts. Whoop, got some red in there. All right, Start doing some spot colors. What? Can you hear the choir in the background? I'm usually in the office on Sunday, but that is a little extreme. So I'm trying to do now is try to get just kind of an even blue wash over the entire costume area. Did a red wash over the mouth area. And by giving the blacks this blue wash, it's giving them a cool temperature. And by having that initial kind of greenish wash that I did, everything's just, it is starting to come together and it's looking, the color temperatures are looking the same. these areas that I went really black on are starting to get really dark, some of me too. Give them a second wash just to balance out. Balance out the rest of them. So all I'm doing now is just going over and wash in soft washes over areas and just bringing out, starting to form the detail. And so basically adding more blue to the blacks or the dark grays. Same time doing the same thing to the highlights and starting to blend them together. Yeah, not a very exciting process. The cool thing is that it starts coming together really fast once I start doing the highlights. We'll start adding in the whites. I'll start creating all the edge contrast. But for now, it's just kind of layers of glazed paint. I'm just using water to mix. I could use glazing medium, but I don't know. I don't always like to do it. On larger pieces, I will. It does slow down the process a bit because it doesn't dry as fast as water. As a water mix, it does have a little bit of retardant in it. So you have to let the layers dry a little more. So it gives you better coverage, but it takes longer because you have to wait. And I don't have the patience for it. Thanks, Jan. I don't hate it. All right, so where's my better brush? So with Venom, I like to overwork the tongue a bit. It sounds a little weird. But the tongue is such a key feature. Or this whole mouth area with the crazy teeth and everything else. So I always like to get more detail in the tongue. So I'm going to work on the tongue now. Starting to add just red mixed with a touch of black. To give it that wine, that Bordeaux shade. And the entire mouth area is not going to be black, it's just going to have a red hue to it. So the light's coming from the bottom, certain areas are going to be really dark, and certain areas are going to be light. try the auto color again. See, no, it's so out of focus. There. Can you hear the drums? Yeah, it's getting a little loud over there next door. Might need to go over and give him a little knock on the door. If I wasn't streaming, I'd probably just put on some Skrillex and crank the speakers. Kind of let them know that I can get loud too. I have a feeling that if I turn on my reference speakers on full blast, they'll get the point. But now it's Sunday, it's Canadian Thanksgiving here, trying to be chill and behaved. It's not too distracting. Oh, I think they stopped. Hey, let me turn off my background music. Can you hear that? It's a little loud. All right, so while the tongue dries, it sounds weird, I'm gonna go and darken some of the blues. So this is just a mix of black and blue. Actually, it's not so much darkening as much as evening them all out, because some areas, like around the chest here, it's darker than everywhere else. So I need to add some darker values in other parts. So it's all uniform. Well, I'm at it, I'm also gonna crispen up some of the edges. So in retrospect, I think the ink wash was actually a little bit of a waste of time. For this, the way I usually paint, I think definitely to revisit the acrylic inks, but having a different approach, because usually I'll do the blacks mix like the way I'm doing them now, going over the areas. So really considering that I blocked in all the shadow areas in pencil to start with, and then I went over them with an ink, and I'm going over them again with paint. I think the paint phase was a little bit of a exercise in redundancy. The ink phase, not the paint phase. Did I say ink phase? Well, the part with the inks was a little redundant. So I'm literally going over it right now, again, doing the same thing. Yeah, oh, live and learn. It's actually one of my favorite things about painting versus drawing, or painting with acrylic, is because it is so forgiving and you can always go over whatever you did. It's really hard to ruin a painting. Not that it's not possible. Sometimes you're just better off starting over than trying to fix it. But when I experiment like this with different mediums, if it doesn't work out, it's not a total waste. So if I like the overall concept and the way it's coming together, and the problem is just the colors or the way the colors laid out, let a drawing go over. It is a bit of a problem when I'm doing this on actual sketch card for pack insert, and I end up redoing half the card. End up spending like 4 hours on a pack insert card. Not exactly the best use of time. I think I said if it was one of my streams or Sean or Rodney's or Warner's, talking about the amount of time being spent on a sketch card. And I think there's two different kinds of artists or artist approaches to the inserts. I'm not talking about AP or commission stuff, about the pack inserts. There's the guys and girls, and this is just my opinion, so if anyone's watching this later saying, hey, you're wrong, sorry. Except opinion, everyone's got one, it might not be right. Is that there's the people that do it for the money. Okay, so let me take a step back there. Everyone does it for the money. There's a financial component to it, but it's not necessarily primary. So for me, and I think there's certain artists that do the same, when you're working on when I'm working on a insert set, it's not about the pay for that specific set, whatever that pay may be. It's about the experience. The reason I keep on doing these sketch cards or agree to keep on doing these sets with Upper Deck in this case, or anybody else that reaches out, is not because I'm going to make a killing off the set itself. It's because it gives me a bit of a purpose and forces me to paint on a regular basis. So, I still, or as any artist, illustrator should say, is still honing my craft. And I decided a few years ago that I just want to become really proficient in acrylic paints. And the only way to do that is to practice. So the choices are randomly paint some stuff as I feel like it. The drawback there is that it always feel like it. Real life gets in the way, and you're like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. It just becomes a bit of a chore. But having a deadline in place that you have to meet, for me anyways, it kind of legitimizes the process. Like, okay, I'm not painting because I want to draw Venom, or I want to draw Jean Grey or Green Lantern or whatever. I'm doing it because I have this deadline that I have agreed to meet, and I have to do everything within my power to meet that deadline. So I got to paint, and in turn, I get to paint daily, experiment, whatever, improve my craft. The other choice is, I could take a painting class at local art gallery. Well, now they're all closed, but at an art gallery, or even a Michael's thing, or similar. But those happen. There's tons of them that you can go to, or I could go to. But the subject matter is not really very exciting, and I don't really want to draw plants and peaches, those kind of things. I like the sci-fi, fantasy, horror stuff. So there's no class that's going to say, hey, let's draw zombies, let's paint zombies. So the sketch cards give me something in the subject matter that I'm interested in to practice on. Now, yes, it's true, there's no supervision, but you really need that much supervision. Like, I'm not learning how to hold a brush or color values or color theory or stuff like that. I'm just getting comfortable and finding an approach at a specific medium that works for me. I have different ways in which I tackle painting anyways. You can see through my cards that are out in collections or eBay, ComC, ePack, whatever. There's different styles and different approaches. But, well, not a but. The advantage of it all is that by not being driven by the payout for each individual card, saying, okay, I'm going to try to bang out 30 cards this weekend, so the payout is justified. And I'm looking at it in the sense, like, if I went and took an art class 2, 3, 4 times a week and painted whatever it is that they were painting in that class, I'd pay for that. And not only would I pay for the class itself, its travel, its specific materials, because these places are very particular about what materials you use, versus doing this where I can use whatever I want. Doesn't really cost me anything, and I'll make some sort of return off the time I spend here to pay for my materials and my coffee or a bottle of scotch that I might need to dip into while working on a set. But there's progression. So working on a set, like for example, masterpieces, of which I did over 100 cards with an average, call it 2-3 hours a card. The value of that experience at the end of the set far outseeds the direct financial compensation for that specific set of cards. Because I feel I've gotten better, and the feedback that I've received from collectors and other artists, the work has improved, and there's definite evolution in the style. And that's what it's about for me, anyways. It's about, like I said before, improving and honing my craft, learning about the medium, getting a better understanding of anatomy, and so on. So that's what it's all about on that. And then on the flip side, where there is a financial component to it, by getting better and producing better quality cards over time, the value of Scotch for inspiration, that's right, Scotch makes the world go round. Saying on the financial side is by improving and getting better and producing higher quality cards, it creates more value to more appeal for collectors. So the return really starts coming in through commission work, because the work gets better. It's got wider appeal. Collectors and other people are really starting to appreciate and start commissioning it, and then that's where there's potential for some revenue. Right? Nobody's retiring off of sketch cards. We put it that way. But if the time I invest in sketch cards, whatever form, channel, whatever they're for, helps improve my skills, and in turn generates more commissions or higher price commissions, because the quality justifies it, and we're talking. That was a little bit of a rant, but yeah. So that's one kind of sketch card artist, and then the other batch, I think, are the guys that are just trying to make a quick buck and get a return from it. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not knocking anyone. To each their own, all that, but I think, and again, somebody can chew me out later, that a collector can see in a card the effort, and they appreciate the effort, and they will value the card and the artist accordingly. And if it's someone very well experienced, like I'm sure a Bianchi, a Palumbo, a Jusco, a Julie, any of professional level artists can put together or output a very high quality sketch, painted, pencil, crayon, whatever it is, a lot faster than me, right? But that is because of the years and years of experience of doing it, and their experience and skill and exposure to the mediums that they're using, and the craft is immediately identified in their work, which also in turn creates value. So, except for there's a financial component to everything. There's just different ways of achieving it in different tiers. That's just my opinion. So you can see I'm adding the highlights now to really create more separation. And it's really starting to pop. To me anyways, the camera is really not being very cooperative today. So what's going to be really cool is that because there's so much contrast down here between the white and the darks, and this area is really popping right now because of the contrast. I'm going to add some highlights around Venom's mouth here before I start getting to the teeth. But there's a lot of contrast happening down here, and there's going to be a lot of contrast happening up here around the mouth because I'm going to go and punch out the eyes. And then as I add the teeth and the highlights on the tongue, so then potentially what I'm foreseeing that's going to happen is the hand's going to start getting lost. So these highlights that I'm adding now, they're actually a little faded. But once everything else comes into place, I'm probably going to have to come back in and hit these highlights again and just create a little bit more edge contrast around the fingers and the hand to make sure it pops. And doesn't get lost in not background because it's in the foreground. But we'll see how that looks in a few minutes when I get the eyes done. So how long has this stream been going on for now? 1 hour and 37 minutes. It's a lot longer. Yeah, and exactly, right? Like as the quality of the product gets better, right? The collectability becomes, from a collector's point of view, becomes stronger. Right, and collectors, and there's different kinds of collectors, and they go for different things, for different reasons. And there's a whole aspect of art is subjective. Some people like certain styles and certain things, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can't make everyone happy. But I was saying this to, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, and I said, like, ultimately, what I want or what I'm hoping for is if somebody cracks a pack or a box and they get one of my sketches, whether they like the character or they like the style, I want it to be relevant. I want for them to be like, okay, I hit Andre or Dre, and I know that if it's not something that I particularly like, I can trade it for what I do like. And like I don't know, that's kind of sounds a little self-serving and whatnot, but yeah, no. Maybe I'm not wording it right. And what's actually really funny is from an artist, or sorry, I don't like calling myself an artist, from an illustrator point of view, um, some of the cards that I've done, especially for Masterpiece, because that's the one's kind of floating around now, some of the favorite ones are the ones that I'm looking at and I'm saying, okay, you know what, this is really something that I really feel I accomplished a lot with, from a technique, from a composition, color, whatever space, are not necessarily as well received as I'd hoped for, or as I thought they would be. Um, yeah, and then some other cards that I was like, okay, this is cool, because I don't think there's one card that I put out in that set that I don't like. I'm definitely trying not to put out cards that I'm not happy with. But some of the ones that I was like, okay, this is cool, but to me, it's not really special, for lack of better words. And then they pop up and people go crazy for them. And I think that's because people look at different things. Like when I paint something, I'm looking at, is this what I had in my mind when I sat down and started putting together this piece? Is this the look, the refinement level that I wanted? Um, you know, that doesn't always work, or things don't always work the way I had hoped. So it's like, okay, that's not exactly what I want. I still like it. I still think it's good. Uh, um, and then, like I said, it pops in the market and people are just like totally loving it. And I'm looking, I was like, oh, that's not really the card that I really spent a lot of time on or took a lot of effort and thought. Still looks good. Yeah, forget my point. Uh, hey, Sylvester, what's going on, buddy? Just started doing sketchcard this year, 6 months ago. Just yeah, that's awesome, right? Yeah, like I like I said, I look at the sets as doing the set work as gaining exposure, getting experience and stuff like that. There's financial gain to be had in art, in illustration, in comic art, in cartooning, whatever it is that you want to call it, right? And I think sketch cards is just one of the many uh, gateway drugs to it. um, right? You just getting into the space, getting your name out there, and being able to gain some exposure, right? Put the money aside. All right, like what's the alternative? Go to school for, go to a graphic design program or illustration program, a fine arts program for a year and a half, 2 years, put out a whole massive portfolio of stuff and post it online and try to get some attention from some art directors, collectors, and so on, and hope that um, your work appeals to them. Or do this way, put out stuff and get better at it with time, because anybody can get better. There's no peak, I don't think, in any creative space. There's no point where you say, okay, this is as good as I'm going to get as an artist, and I'm not getting any better. If you think that, then I think you're wrong. And I mean, look at anyone, right? Look at any artist, comic artist, illustrationist, cartoonist. Like, look at Jusko's work between '93 and now. His work then was fantastic, and um, shaped a generation of comic book artists and illustrationists, sci-fi artists, and so on. But the work that he's doing now is so much more refined, and there's so much more depth to the way he paints and the way he does the colors and his compositions. And you can't knock his older stuff, but there's a noticeable difference between what he's putting out now and what he put out 20 years ago, 30 years ago, almost. 93, yeah, almost 30 years ago. Boris, Julie, even Palumbo recently, right? If you look at some of his older stuff, again, very well, like beautiful work, but you can definitely see the maturity in the art, and that's for everyone, right? That's awesome. Sir Lester, I don't know what, for some reason I keep on thinking Sylvester, Sylvester. And I've seen your stuff because I think we're some of the same groups, right? I've seen your stuff pop up, and yeah, I can tell, and hopefully other people can say that you're investing the time to, to learn more techniques and improve everything like everyone else is. All right, so I think that's about as much as I'm going to build out on the body right now. And all right, should I do the tongue or the teeth? Well, let me do the teeth, and then I'll refine them. So one thing, and just because I'll let this dry for a minute, I'm not going to go for coffee again. I'll let you guys watch paint dry. I can't remember what I was doing, which set it was. Oh, it was a horror set, and I did Pinhead, and it has all those pins in the set. And somebody said, "I can't believe you spent all the time to highlight all those pins." Well, it's actually really simple. I'll just do it large. The pins in Pinhead's head. All right. As a mesh, which makes life easier, and then he's got all these pins sticking out of his head wherever there's an intersection, right, like that. Let's go like that, right? And really, at that scale, to get the shape and the highlight of the pins, all it was is drawing the pins in black, whether it's paint or, in this case, I'm using a fine liner. Okay. And they're not the main event. They're not the focal point of the piece. They just need to be there because that's part of the character. So getting all the pins in, and then all I did is with a color neutral gray, like a 50% gray, which is like that. Pick the light, followed the light source because I had a reference photo. So in this here, let's just say the light's coming from the top. So kept all the bottoms of each pin dark, black, and just outlined them in gray. and then went in with some pure white and added some highlights at the tips of the pins where the light would be hitting them. That's it, pins. And well, not that great on white because the white gets lost, but let's see if this will give me some tint. That was his head. Let's bring the whites back. And then the mesh that he's got, kind of where all the cuts are. That was it for Pinhead. Like I was saying to my friend, like the pins took like 4 minutes. I think it was the rest of the card that was where it took time to get the facial expression and the shadows. Pins themselves, it's nothing to it. If you want to go extra, do a cast shadow from all the pins in a very light gray. I said the light's coming from the top, so they'll all be casting shadows this way. Extra. Anyways, that was my Pinhead story. Back to Venom. So if I would have skipped that ink wash stage, this would have been done maybe 20 minutes ago. So now what I'm doing is just going with pure red. I'm gonna really bring out the highlights where the light should be hitting. So the light's hitting from the bottom. So here, now the tongue turns a little bit. So I need to add a highlight at the bottom, not the top there. And then underneath the tongue, where the light would be hitting it. And I said there's a little ambient light from this side, so I'll hit a little bit inside the mouth, a little bit from the top. I think I scraped a bit of, I did, yeah, from the metal. Like the tongue essentially is a cylinder, just a bent cylinder, so it's not much to it. What I find helps make the tongue really stick out is all this, the contrast to give it that form, and then adding pure white highlights to make it look wet. So I'm going to go in with slightly diluted white. So again, light's coming from the bottom, so this is going to be, whoop, almost dropped the brush. Highlight there. Oops. I need a finer brush. But again, with acrylics, it's forgiving. You don't like something, just paint over it. And actually, the more layers I find, the more layers I do. So I'll do highlights and then go over them, the red again, or the base color, and tone them down. Then go back over with white and try to get the highlights back in again. It just creates more depth. The more washes I can squeeze in, the more depth it will create. So back in with white. Let's see if I have a really tiny brush here to really get a fine tip, because that tongue is very small. Just give it a little. So some saliva wraps around like this. Helps create the form. Okay, I have a fine brush. I really want a fine brush. This will work. So this is a 10/0 edger, but it's a cheap brush, so I'm not sure how well it's going to work. Maybe. Just very fine edges, makes it look like water droplets. Helps make the tongue look all wet and gooey and whatnot. All right, so let's do some teeth, tooth action. Let's go back to a number 2, fine tip to block them in. And I'm just gonna do a mix of yellow with like a black, yellow, white mix. So it's going to give me a very warm, kind of almost a French gray. So that looks like this. It's not really a cold gray, it's got a yellow tint. And start blocking the teeth. And Venom's got teeth on top of teeth, so you can't really go wrong as far as I'm concerned with the teeth, as long as they're in the right area. Get some teeth behind the tongue. Let this settle for a minute. Sure, I don't need to. So I'm just adding some more black to that mix I had, so you can see the difference between the original value and the darker value. And just kind of creating an outline around the teeth, trying to follow the light. Now he's getting lit from the bottom. His hand and his chin is going to cover most of his teeth. It's going to cast shadow on most of his teeth, so I need them to be darkened on the bottom and the right side. Oh, that's a little too wet. This is too wet. Let's do that again. Still too wet. Until if it's the surface or the paint's got too much water in it. I think it's the paint. It's the same idea as the pins I was just talking about, where you have a base color and then a mid-tone and highlight. So the difference here is I did the base color first, which is that yellow gray, which acts as the mid-tone, and I'm adding the darks for the shadows, and then I'll go back in with some whites and add some highlights. But essentially, it's just little triangles. Oh, and now I'm going to add a touch of white to my mix. It's not pure white, it's just this kind of yellowish French gray mixed with stronger darks and white. So there we go. It looks white because of the contrast, but it's not. I'm not actually painting with white. You can see if I put it on white, you can see what color it is. So now I'm gonna just add happy with the teeth. I'm gonna add some more spot whites on the tongue. Just to really give it some more dimension. And since I'm doing fine details, I'm just gonna crispen up the edges on the eye mark. I don't know how we see through this stuff. So yeah, as I thought, the hand is kind of getting lost. There's a lot of contrast down here where the highlights are, a lot of contrast there in the mouth is. So there's two things I'm going to do. One is I need to really strengthen the shadow underneath the chin. I can't use the fine brush for that. Let's go back to number one. So again, just mixing black and blue to get a dark blue. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to increase the shadow here underneath the chin. And that'll create some separation between the hand and his neck. Actually, while I'm at it, see if there's anywhere else where I want to add a stronger dark. Maybe around here. Create a little bit more volume in his arms. There, so that's nice and dark. So I don't necessarily need to do anything to the hand. I can work around it and just either lighten it or darken it, because ultimately all I'm trying to do is get contrast between the foreground, which is the hand, the midground, and the midground, the background, just this black color or texture. But there is some flatness to the arm that I'm going to need to address, and that is the area where the bone comes in from the elbow through the wrist, where the radius of the ulna, which are the two bones in the forearm. That area is very well defined for most people, especially when there's muscle buildup around it. So it's got the, I can't remember what this muscle is called, the one that connects the forearm to the bicep, and then this one down here, which is the bottom of the forearm, which are generally very well developed for people that lift weights. It'll create, just like between the bicep and the tricep, when it flexes, it's two muscle masses, so it does have a concave area like that. So in turn, there'll be a harsh shadow in there. So I need to darken this part here. And then while I'm at it, I'll just add some more darks too. The fingers. Hey, Donald. Thanks, buddy. You missed the part where it didn't look so great when it was all blurry. What else am I seeing here? Yeah, so his left, which is his other shoulder, impact is actually coming here. That's the edge of the shoulder. It's hard to see in the video, but I need to create some separation there. So that should really be dark, and it will help define the shape of this Venom's hand while we're at it. I'm just going with that dark blue mixture I had. I'm just adding some more dark spots. So just create some more contrast, more forms. Yeah, I still think I need to just make the bottom of the hand pop a little bit more, because it is bottom light. So if it's so highlighted under the pecs here, that some of that light should catch on his hand as well. It's a subtle shift in brightness, but it's enough, I think, that'll make a difference. So I think I'm pretty much done with this guy. So sharpen the edges a little bit here on the highlights, some spot whites. And this is how I ruin things. I dip the brush in brown. Ugh, that's the worst. I should have just quit while I was ahead. This is why I like paint. You can always go over it. Oh, right on. Send me a picture. I'd love to see how it came out. And thank you. kind of hard to stop sometimes. Like I could keep on working this and refining the edges and getting it smoother and more contrast, but I think 2 hours and 15 minutes minus the 7-minute coffee break while we all watch paint dry is enough for today's quickie. And the other thing that I need to work on, and I know for sure, and I've had feedback from collectors, is backgrounds. Now, the challenge that I have with backgrounds is not that I can't do backgrounds or I don't want to do backgrounds, it's the time. So if I just put in 2 hours and 15 minutes, because I did spend 20 minutes doing the base sketch originally, so let's count the whole time kind of running it, and throw in another hour for a background. Starting to get a little extreme, and I don't mind putting in the time. It's hard to find the 3-hour window, which is a little contradictory to everything I said as to why I do sketch cards. But I need to speed up my process without sacrificing quality, in order to be able to put more on the canvas in a 2-hour window or 2.5-hour window. But you know what? The flat background's killing me. I lied, I'm not done. All right, so one of two things going to happen here. Option A, it's going to create some dimension on the background, and it's going to look nice, and it's going to be fun. Option B, I'm about to ruin this piece, and it's going to not be good. Hopefully, it's option A. And all I want to do really is darken the top to amplify the highlight from the bottom. Without creating a separation. And without painting over the character. So I need to go in and fix him. And by separation is I don't want to have any hard edges. So it should blend seamlessly. Or seemingly, wow, that's a mouthful. It should blend good. Blend good, that's what I wanted to do. Let's rewind this one more time. Okay. So basically applying the same idea as the teeth and the pins earlier. Have a base tone, add darks to one side, add lights to another side. In this case, I'm adding a white wash to the bottom to lighten it, hopefully. Not brown. I need to get a new palette that doesn't have brown on it. If I'm mixing brown in my paint. Let's try white again with a hint of yellow. almost looks smoky, which is all right with me. Okay. I'm going to a very, very dangerous territory now, because if I start overworking the background, I'm going to give myself another hour project, which I really don't want. Proper workflow is to do the background first, and because I don't need anyone's rules, because I'm a lone wolf and a rebel without a cause and all that. I never do the backgrounds. So then I have to do a background around it, pretty much finished character, which always has the risk of messing something up and having to go in and add more detail to the background, or like in this case where I did brush a little bit over the character, which is not that bad, go in and just refine some edges to create that separation from the background. So it's kind of hard to tell in the video, but I did peek in a little bit with the background texture on this head. So I'm just going in with a diluted white and just trying to get that crisp edge back to his head. It's not a big deal. Could have been a lot worse. Christ is averted, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen. Wow. Where are we at? 224. If I can get this done in 230, that'd be great. 26, almost there. All right, so now for my favorite part. Venom's done. Oh, I should probably sign this little bugger. Let's see, where's the edge? Actually, I don't. There, I'm gonna sign it in there. Oh, I hope this pen's not dead. Boom, done. And now for my favorite part, which is also sometimes the worst part, and that is removing the tape. Hey, Rusty. Wow. Got about 90 seconds to go. Oh, yeah. So one thing with tape, if anyone ever tries this, is you can't let the tape sit on for too long, because the paint, especially if you go with thick paint or medium, the paint will really adhere to the tape. So when you try to rip it like this, like to peel the tape, you're risking it ripping ripping the paint off the actual drawing. So because of that, what I do is, you see my crop marks there. I do my tape like 1/8 of an inch or so, a little bit outside the crop marks, because that's where I'm going to cut it. So even if I do start seeing some tearing, then I can stop peeling, grab an X-Acto knife, cut that edge, and peel the rest of it. But I really like the smooth edges that you get by doing the tape. Boom. There you go. That's my Venom. That's how I paint Venom from pretty much start to finish, with some wasted time. That's how I paint pins. You can rewind to see that explained. If you are so inclined. That's it. I'll post a picture of the card itself. It's looking a little dark on the video. I'm not sure what that is. Hopefully I can figure out what the issue is, or just get a new webcam. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for the comments. It was great chatting. Like I said, I'll post a picture of this, and I don't have anything scheduled as to like a fixed time I'm going to be streaming next. Probably try to hop in with Jalen Warner sometime this week. Let's see if autofocus improves it. I do have a really one video lined up soon, hopefully lined up soon. I'm really excited for, with a very special guest. Yeah, I'll post about it, pre-promote and everything else. But that's it for now. That was my 2.5 hour Sunday quickie, because you know that's how I roll. That's it. Anybody has any questions? If I didn't miss anything, you can rewind it. I don't delete the videos, DM me, and so on. And this will be up for sale at some point. I'm trying to get a little bit of a catalog of things, so I don't post one thing at a time. But if you're watching this and you're interested in this card, or want to be added to the AP waiting list, or want to get your own commission, sketch cards, sketch covers, whatnot, drop me a message. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And if you're Canadian, happy Thanksgiving.